was a grace when the heart is under fire. Another way when the walls are closing in. And when I look at the space between where I used to be and this reckoning, I know I will never be alone. There was another in the fire, standing next to me. There was another in the waters, holding back the seas. And should I ever need reminding of how I've been set free? There was a cross that bears the burden, where another died for me. There was another in the fire. On my dead, like a dead beneath the waters. I'm no longer a slave to my sin anymore. But should I fall in the space between what remains in me and this reckoning? Either way, I will bow to the things of this world. And I know I will never be alone. There was another in the fire, standing next to me. There was another in the waters, holding back the seas. And should I ever need reminding of how I've been set free? There was a cross that bears the burden, where another died for me. There was another in the fire. I can see the light in the darkness as the darkness bows to him. I can hear the roars in the heavens as the space between breaths fill. I can feel the ground shaking beneath us as the prison walls cave in. Nothing stands between us. Nothing stands between us. I can see the light in the darkness as the darkness bows to him. I can hear the roar in the heavens as the space between west wind. I can feel the ground shake beneath us as the prison walls cave in. Nothing stands between us. Nothing stands between us. There was another in the fire, standing next to me. There was another in the waters, holding back the seas. And should I ever need reminding of how I've been set free? There was a cross that bears the burden, where another dies for me. There was another in the fire. There was another in the fire. For the moments where I'm still in your presence, all the noise dies down. Lord, speak to me now. You have all my attention. I will linger and listen. I can't miss a thing. Lord, I know my heart wants more of you. My heart wants something new, so I surrender. All I want is to live within your love, being done by whom you love. My desire is to know you deeper. Lord, I will open up Jesus, have your way in me now. Just open up my heart to you. Open up my heart to you now. Just do what only you can. Jesus, have your way in me now. All I want is to live within your love. Can't deny who you are. My desire is to know you deeper. Lord, I will open up again, throw my fears into the wind. I am desperate for a touch of heaven.
Mary, did you hear what Caesar's doing?
What?
He's talking about some registration, like we're in school. I mean, come on. What's he needing my personal details for? Tax evasion? Boy, I would evade if I had the money in the first place.
Woo, child, I know this really came from heaven, but sometimes I can still feel the impact from when he landed.
Well, just have a seat.
Joey, you were talking about a registration. What do you mean? Do we have to go somewhere to get registrated?
Go somewhere? I ain't leaving this house for nothing. Have you seen the weather outside? It's way too cold. I ain't no glacier boy.
And you're also not reading till the end. Apparently we've got to make our way to Galilee.
You got jokes.
No, I'm being serious. We have to leave for Judah ASAP.
Judah?
Yeah, you remember the place where we got you them latest J's?
Oh, yeah.
Wait, where's the sheep? What do you mean? They hang all around, sis. No! Enough of the Candy Crush. There's no sheep. Huh? It's not Candy Crush. It's trading, man. Wait, what? Where's all the sheep? Stop. That's what I've been saying the whole time.
Fear not.
Hey, what does it mean?
Hi guys, hope you're all having a lovely Sunday morning. Today I'm going to be reading through Isaiah chapter 9 verse 1 to 7. But before we begin, let's just quickly pray. Dear Lord, thank you for bringing us here today, allowing us to have this time where we can come together to worship you, honour you and learn more about your word. I just want to ask you to bless this teaching and speak through me today to touch even a few people's hearts. I thank you for all you do for us. In your mighty name I pray, amen. So I'm going to quickly read this chapter. Before I actually start reading this chapter, I'm going to read the last verse of the previous chapter. So Isaiah, not sure I say it, Isaiah chapter 8 verse 22, which reads, "Then they will look towards the death and see only distress and darkness and fearful gloom, and they will be thrust into utter darkness." So then it says, "Nevertheless, there will be no more gloom for those who were in distress. In the past, he humbled the land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali. But in the future, he will honor Galilee of the nations by the way of the sea beyond the Jordan. The people walking in darkness have seen a great light. On those living in the land of deep darkness, a light has dawned. You have enlarged the nation and increased their joy. They rejoice before you as people rejoice at the harvest, as warriors rejoice when dividing the plunder. For as in the day of Midian's defeat, you have shattered the yoke that burdens them, the bar across their shoulders, the rod of their oppressor. Every warrior's boot used in battle and every garment rolled in blood will be destined for burning, will be fuel for the fire. For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders, and he'll be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace, and Prince of Peace. Of the greatness of his government and peace there will be no end. He will reign on David's throne and over his kingdom, establishing, upholding it with justice and righteousness from that time on and forever. The zeal of the Lord Almighty will accomplish this. So, as I just read the last bit of verse 22, basically judgment was pronounced upon Israel, and just after we hear that last verse of chapter 8, after we hear this and feel that all is like despairing and lost for Israel, then comes the next word, as I read before at the start of chapter 9, nevertheless. So nevertheless there'll be no gloom for those who are in distress. In the past he humbled the land, and in the future he will honour Galilee. So using like the terms past and future are quite vague and like broad timelines, and I think Isaiah means for us to not be too particular in when exactly it was, but simply to just think in the past formerly there was gloom, and in the end there's glory and honour, as it says in the verse. So verse 2, the people walking in darkness, the darkness of the gloom, have seen a great light on those living in the land of deep darkness, a light has dawned. So you might wonder, how much does Isaiah actually understand about, because as we know, Christ being this light, but the ground, cause and base of what Isaiah is basically saying here is verse 6, which we will go on to later on, for unto us a child is born. So he clearly knows more than just a vague sense of somehow light is gonna come, and he will say many more things about Christ. He will say many more things and has said many things about Christ, the one who's actually bringing the light. Sorry if you can hear noise. So he knows that somehow there's going to be a Messiah who will come, and darkness is going to be dispelled, light is going to shine, and the gloom will be replaced with honour and glory. So he says in verse 3, you have enlarged the nation, so he's become more glorious in these northern provinces of Israel, so Zebulun and Naphtali, and he's increased its joy. So he gives two analogies of what this joy actually looks like. People rejoice at the harvest, and when warriors divide the plunder. So at harvest we're glad because we've got enough food, our needs are met, and our needs are met physically, by provision, and we're glad when the enemy has been defeated and we can divide the plunder. So there's a gladness and celebration of a sense of victory. So verse 4 says, for as in the day of Midian's defeat. So I'm pretty sure we all know the story, but in Judges 7 it refers to Gideon's great victory over Midian, where the Lord causes the men throughout their camp to basically turn on each other with their swords, and in turn the army fled. So this is like miraculous, stunning victory that only the Lord, only God could have performed it. And verse 4 goes on to say, you've shattered the yoke that burdens them, the bar across their shoulders, the rod of their oppressor, which is the ground of being able to divide the plunder and having plenty as at harvest. So just like the victory of Gideon, we know that only the Lord could have done this. And verse 5 goes on to read, I've already read it, I won't read it, but basically what I got from this verse, is that the soldiers, whatever, they're not just defeated, they're not just lying there on the field, and our yoke, our bar and our rod, as mentioned in verse 4, isn't just broken, but they become useful even in their death for us, like for us as God's people, because verse 5 basically goes on to say about how the warriors' boots and the garments, so their clothes and their shoes, end up being burnt and used for fuel. So we can kind of like apply that into our life. So when we're in times of like trouble or hardships, that doesn't necessarily separate us from the love of Christ, but instead it serves another purpose. Just like the clothes, it's there to strengthen and deepen our faith and makes us more united in our love to Christ. That's just something I got from that. But yeah, so verse 6 then goes on to say, for to us a child is born, which I mentioned earlier. So for to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, and Prince of Peace. So you might be thinking, what does this government like look like? But just so you know, it's completely different to what the current government looks like today. So not to get into politics, but the politicians of this day look for what they can get from us. They surround themselves with servants or people that work for them, that do things for them, and instead of that, Jesus instead looks at what he can do for us, for all of us, and surrounds us with his servanthood instead of having things done for him. So the government, God's government, would essentially look like its king, so him, and mirror all his wonderful attributes and characteristics of God, so his character, which, as I said before, Wonderful Counselor, so he guides our life, he's our true helper, he helps us with all of our problems, any situations that we may be in. And Psalms 32 verse 8, Jesus even himself says, I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will counsel you with my loving eye on you. Basically saying that he'll be with us all the time, guide us whenever we need guiding. So also he's described as mighty God, so he's like the source of our power, the strength of our lives, and also everlasting Father. When reading everlasting Father, you might think of the whole Trinity 3 in 1, but I feel like Isaiah here isn't trying to teach us that like God the Son, second person in Trinity, is the same person as God the Father, but instead he's rather highlighting the nature of the Messiah and how he will forever be perfectly father-like in the way that he shepherds us and leads us. So just to not get confused between the two as to what Isaiah is trying to, the point he's trying to get across. Prince of Peace, so he's basically peaceful. He alone, we know that he can restore like any broken relationship, whether it be with your parents or anything, and he offers us assurance of eternal life. So after reading those 4 descriptions of him, we can have like a clearer picture of what this government will look like. So it'll be an infinitely wise government, and by a mighty God, it'll be infinitely strong. By an everlasting Father, it will have like fatherly care and provision and comfort to it. And being led by a Prince of Peace, it will change the world into a peaceful place. So a place of peace. So verse 7 then, the last verse I'm going to cover, basically goes on to talk about how the Messiah will rule for all eternity, so forever and ever, and how he has established and sustained the kingdom, so the kingdom is firm, as the Messiah is the one who is upholding it basically. And so it also reads, the zeal of the Lord Almighty will accomplish this. So you might be thinking all of this is literally sounding too good to be true, a peaceful place, like nothing, no wrongdoing, anything, but it will be done because God has promised to accomplish this word, and part of it has even been accomplished already today. So we can basically trust and believe that this will happen as God has promised it. And yeah, so that was just me kind of walking through verses 1 to 7. Don't know if it's been useful for you. I hope it has. It's all I really got for today. Hope you've taken something from this, and I hope to see all of you soon. Bye.